Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another read aloud. Woo-hoo. So I've already made one read aloud with this book, but we only got through one chapter, one story, one biography. So today I'm reading another one from the same book. But this one is Shirly Ann Jackson. She was born in 1946, and she's still alive, or at least she was. I'm sure she's still alive. She was alive when this book was published in, let me check the publishing date, 2000. Yeah. So Shirley Ann Jackson, great nuclear scientist. That's what we're going to read today. I got my book. I got my sticky notes. I got my reader's notebook. And I also have a pen. So let me go to the informational reading slideshow and pick out a skill to work on. Here we are in the informational reading progression. Y'all are still using this, right? When was the last time you used this? Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I wanna go down to those interpreting and analyzing skills. And, got a blank spot. Comparing and contrasting, haven't done that skill yet. But here's the thing about comparing and contrasting. It's not always great for every book. So I'll write it down and I'll be on the lookout for compare and contrast. But who knows if I'll find it. So that's one. And then I think there's only one more I haven't covered, which is this one at the end, questioning the text. When I disagree with an idea in a text, I still try to think about it, and I also talk back to it. I notice if something is described positively or negatively, and I think about how it could have been described. So that's what I'm going to notice. Comparing and contrasting and questioning the text. Shirley Ann Jackson, great nuclear scientist. Mom, one day, everyone will call me Shirley the Great, exclaimed 4-year-old Shirley Ann Jackson. Miss Jackson looked at her, young child, and smiled. Okay, that was a great lead, wasn't it? Anyway, sorry. I'm not focusing on author's craft for my skill, but I just can't help but notice author's craft. Okay, Shirley was born in Washington, D.C. on August 5th, 1946. Her parents, Beatrice and George Jackson, believed their little girl was special too. They were right. Shirley Ann Jackson achieved many firsts. She would become one of the most respected nuclear physicists in the United States. As a young girl, Shirley liked science so much that she did experiments at home just for fun. One day, Shirley decided to do an experiment with bees. She went into the backyard and sneaked up behind the bees that were on the rose bushes. She gently scooped the bees into the jar. Altogether, she collected bumblebees, yellow jackets, and wasps. The young future scientist put 3 bees, one of each type, into 30 different glass jars. She stored the jars in a space underneath the porch. Shirley studied how different foods affected the bees. Shirley also studied how the bees got along with one another. She wrote down her results in a notebook. Then she set the bees free. When she started high school in 1960, Shirley was still doing experiments. Now she entered them in the school's science fairs. Okay, so here's a picture of Shirley collecting bees just for fun. I'm noticing a little compare and contrast. That we can compare this experiment she did when she was a child to the one she did in high school, right? When she was younger, they were just for fun. And when she was older, she would enter them into science fair. I'm just going to write that down. Okay, so I've written, when Shirley did science experiments as a kid, they were just for fun. But when she was in high school, she entered them in fairs. These two experiences were similar and different, right? Because they were similar because both times they were science experiments, but they were different because before they were just for fun, and then as she got older, it was more serious. Shirley attended an all-black Roosevelt High School in Washington, D.C. The school didn't have a good science lab, so Shirley did her experiments at home. Her hard work paid off. She was a straight-A student. Here comes the brain, students would say when she passed by. Shirley graduated from Roosevelt High in the summer of 1964. She had the highest grade average in the class. Okay, so I'm questioning the text here. If we remember from the informational reading progression, Sometimes the question we do is we think about how things are fair or not fair. I'm thinking the fact that Shirley Ann Jackson had to do all of her science experiments at home because her high school didn't have the right equipment is unfair. Could you imagine how much better of a scientist she might have become if her school would have had the right equipment? It's just making me think it's unfair, so I'm going to take a note about that. All right, so I've written page 44, questioning, that's my skill. I think it's unfair that Shirley's high school didn't have the right equipment and she had to do all of her experiments at home. Why didn't her high school, it's HS, high school, why didn't her high school have the right stuff? In the fall, Shirley went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, in Cambridge. They had the best programs in math and science. Shirley wanted to become a scientist. She was one of only a handful of Black people who went to MIT. But that didn't stop her from reaching her goal. She studied hard and she passed all of her tests. In 1968, Shirley graduated with a degree in physics, the science of matter and energy. After graduation, Shirley kept studying at MIT, and in 1973, she received a Doctor of Physics degree. Shirley was the first Black woman at MIT to receive this important certificate. That's interesting. I'm going to write that down next time I take a writing break. Shirley mainly studied theoretical physics. That meant she used math to figure out how atoms, the tiniest bits of matter, work. Shirley is one of the first Black women to specialize in this field of science. Okay, so there's two facts, and I think that falls into comparing and contrasting, because if we're comparing all the people who are in this field of work, this physics field of science, if we compare all of them, Shirley Ann Jackson really stands out. She was the first Black woman to get that degree. So that is in contrast, right? That makes her different. Thinking about comparing and contrasting is all about thinking how things are the same and different. I'm going to write that down. Okay, so I've just written, I checked back in the book. Shirley Ann Jackson is different from other people in her field of science. She was the first Black woman to have a doctorate degree in physics and theoretical physics. So 2 firsts. Pretty cool. In 1976, Shirley went off to work for the American Telegraph and Telephone Company, AT&T, in Murray Hill, New Jersey. Her work with atoms helped AT&T design and build circuits, paths through which electricity can flow. She helped them design and build a semiconductor laser material that lets electricity run through it. Without these materials, you wouldn't be able to talk to your friends on the phone long distance or play your CDs. This was made 20 years ago. No one really listens to CDs anymore. But I'm sure these lasers help us with iPhones and YouTube or whatever, the internet. Through her work, Shirley met Morris A. Washington. He was a physicist at AT&T too. Shirley and Morris fell in love and got married. They have one son, Alan. Throughout her career, Shirley has held many big jobs. She has taught at universities. She served for 10 years on the New Jersey Commission on Science and Technology. She received many prestigious awards and honors. In 1995, Shirley received a very special honor. President Bill Clinton named her chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRC, in Rockville, Maryland. This was another first. Shirley became the Commission's first Black chairperson. The chairperson's job at the NRC is very, very important. It is to make sure nuclear power plants around the country are safe, and the chairperson helps find safe places to store harmful nuclear wastes. She makes sure that nuclear wastes are destroyed properly. The chairperson also helps decide how nuclear materials can be used in medical and scientific research. Dr. Jackson left the NRC in 1999 to accept a position as president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Schenectady, New York. Those are some hard words. Schenectady, New York. Let me say it all again. When I get caught up on words, I like to sound it out the best I can and then say the sentence over. Dr. Jackson left the NRC in 1999 to accept a position as president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Schenectady, New York. Shirley Ann Jackson is proud of her achievements. More than anything, she hopes that her success will inspire other African American children to become scientists too. Very cool. Okay, well, I'm going to do a little reflecting now. I have some thoughts about this book. Shirley Ann Jackson is a role model, and I'm wondering what inspired her to do all that. Was it just like she loved science, so she just decided to do all these things? You know, she was the first of so many things, right? The first Black woman to have a degree in physics, the first Black woman to have a degree in theoretical physics, the first Black person, man or woman, to serve as the chairperson for the NRC. So it's not like she saw someone doing it and went, oh, I want to do that too. She just was like motivated. So I'm just going to get my thoughts together and journal a little bit and reflect. Okay, so I've just written, Shirley Ann Jackson was motivated by her love of science to do so many cool things. She was the first in so many areas. I wonder what inspired her to do all of those things. Just her curiosity or love of science? Or was there something more? Very cool. Now I do have to go to the end and add this. I'm giving this book a 4 out of 5 because I felt really inspired by her passion and motivation. Oops, I forgot an E. Just to like keep going and keep doing cool things. Shirley Ann Jackson, a brilliant scientist, a motivating story, an inspiring person. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching me practice. Now, as always, if there is a story you want to hear or a book you love that you would like me to read and practice skills with and analyze, please, please, please let me know. I love making read alouds. And yeah, I guess I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day. Keep reading. Bye.